Hello, everyone. I hope you're having a fantastic day. Thanks so much for stopping by. Today, I get to share with you the unboxing of the Club La La Land Crafts product kits. Here it is. Now, if you're a subscriber, you know that they come in these cute little gold envelopes. Love that, the golden ticket envelopes. But let's take a look at what comes in the product kit. Now, Club La La, if you're new, Club La La Land has these are kit subscriptions. Now there's three different type of subscriptions. There's the product kit, which is everything you see here, but there's also kit options that have just the stamps or just the dies. And I'll leave links below for you to in case you're interested and want to check that out. But we're going to take a look. Now your kit will come with a cover sheet. So I wanted to show you what the stamps look like, so I'm just taking a piece of white cardstock. The stamps are red rubber and they're quality red rubber, and I'm just taking the entire first stamp set and I'm going to stamp it on a piece of white cardstock here. Now later on I do trim down the red rubber. I like doing that. It's your preference. You don't have to. It stamps beautifully whether you cut it or whether you don't. But I'm inking it up with some Memento Tuxedo Black ink, and it stamps beautifully, and there she is. This is Garden Marci, and she is just adorable. She comes with two sentiments. Thank you for being you, and plant the seeds of love wherever you go. Love that. I love the little hair pretty and the flowers. It's so sweet. So that's our first stamp set. Now our second stamp set here, our little fairies are back. This time they're Garden Fairies, and you get three of them. You have one that's standing just by herself. One of them is holding a bouquet, and the other one has a pretty little watering can. So there they are, and the Garden Fairies come with three sentiments, and they are so sweet. It says, let's see, love to garden, and you make my soul blossom. I thought that was cute, and that little watering can matches the die, which I thought was so fun. And then the third sentiment says, let your dreams bloom. So those are your cute little Garden Fairies. These are your two stamp sets. Now you get the coordinating themed dies. This month you get 4, but one of them is extra special. I'm actually going to die cut them out and show you what they look like, because the details in the Club La La Land Crafts dies are just beautiful. But I like the scale of them too. They're made to be scaled with your stamp sets, which is fantastic. Okay, now here's the watering pail. You can see the stitch lines and the detail in there. And then you also get the little flowers. You get 4 in a row, and they're attached with one line, which makes it easy to trim off if you want individual flowers. But there's detail on here too, which I thought was so fun. Sorry about the wobbly hands. Okay, and then the nice thing that the flowers here are on a strip is because it goes with your flower box. Now this flower box is actually a 3D flower box. So cute. It comes in 2 parts, and if you want to separate your dies you could do that, but I just chose to keep them together. Now when you die cut it, there's score lines. You just fold at the score lines, and then you probably want to use a bone folder to reinforce those score lines. The cardstock that I actually used was heavy duty. I mean, it was my card-based cardstock, so you'd probably want to use a thinner cardstock or even pattern paper if you'd like, but it does score just fine. In fact, I'm going to be making a card with my flower backs today, and I actually used my scoreboard to help with the score lines. But it comes in 2 parts. You fold the score lines in, and then you glue them down to your project, and then that extra piece could be used 2 ways. You could add it to the bottom of your flower box down here, or you can add it to, I want to show you the detail real fast. Cute little florally details. Okay, or you can take your little flowers here. I'm going to add a little bit of glue, and 2 of your flowers here will fit on that little strip perfectly, and then it just slides right into your flower box. So when you adhere your flower box to your project, it's almost like an open envelope. so it can slide in and out. So two ways to use that second portion of the flower box. But I thought this is going to be really fun to create some cards with. So those are your dies. And then you have your two stamp sets. So we're going to make a card. Now I made a card with Garden Marci today, and at the end I showed another project that I made using the Garden Fairies. Now if you are a subscriber, there's a perk. On the very bottom of your cover sheet there's a link, and on that link we'll have lots of wonderful tutorials, step-by-step tutorials, and the card that I made here at the end with the Garden Fairies will be in that step-by-step tutorial. So check out that link, guys, if you're a subscriber. But I'm already jumping in. I'm going to ink up Garden Marci with my Memento Tuxedo Black ink. I'm going to stamp her on a piece of Nina Classic Crest Solar White 80-pound cardstock, and we're going to do some coloring. Now I left the caps out for you guys, and I did leave the coloring in. It is sped up quite a bit, but I'm going to play a little bit of music, and I will catch you back as soon as I'm done coloring. Okay, my coloring is done, and she looks so cute. I did fussy cut her out. I left a little bit of a white border. There's a lot of detail around those flowers, so when you leave a little bit of a white border, it just helps with your fussy cutting. Next, we're going to do some die cutting. Now I'm going to die cut the flower box here with a piece of white cardstock, and this time I actually used thinner cardstock. So this is my Nina 80-pound. We're going to cut out that, and then I'm also going to take the little flowers, and I'm going to cut out 4 of them. 2 will fit the flower box, and I want 2 for accents on the side. And then I also took a piece of silver mirror cardstock. I'm going to cut out my watering pail, but I actually didn't end up using it. I'll save it for another card. Now for my background, I thought it'd be fun to create a window. And so I'm taking a double stitch square die from La La Land Crafts. And this is the second from the largest. And then I'm taking the smallest square die, and I'm going to create a window frame on the inside of the larger square die. Creates a cute little window frame. Okay, and when I die cut out these images, I left them inside my panel. I'm going to color in the flowers with my Copics, and I find this a lot easier and a little bit quicker because I can go outside the lines and so this just helps. But I left the coloring in for my flowers, and I didn't do nothing fancy for the flowers, but I'm just using some pinks. These two colors here were the same pinks that I used for Marcy's dress, and then I decided to add a few darker colors. Actually, it's opposite. These two were the colors I used for Marcy's dress, and then the darker pinks were ones I added. Then I'm just coloring in the stems with some greens. The greens is G40 and G46. I don't know if you can tell. I should have zoomed in for when I did this, but those are my little flowers. Now to color in my little flower box, I decided to use some Distress Oxide ink. I'm going to use Vintage Photo just to create like a little wood grain flower box. I'm just going to go lightly shading over it. Okay, now I'm going to just punch everything out. I held it together with a piece of Post-it tape on the back there, but they're easy to punch out, and even the centers of those flowers, the white portion pops out too, which I thought was wonderful. Okay, now we're gonna reinforce the score lines with my scoreboard here, which is kind of a good thing because after I added my ink, I think it softened the score lines when I ran it through my die cut machine. So doing this was very helpful. Now you can see them. Okay. Now we're just going to turn those in. And just using my bone folder, I'm going to reinforce those seams. And our flower box is ready. Lovely. I'm going to add a little bit more Vintage Photo to darken up my flower box, just a little bit more. Give it more of a wood grain look. Okay. Next, I'm going to take some faded jeans, and we're going to color in the background. Oh, I don't know if I told you, but I cut out a piece of white cardstock with the same square die I used to cut out my window. So it's going to line up beautifully. But I'm going to go over my background with some faded jean Distress Oxide ink, and then I did add water to activate that ink a little bit and give it a little bit of texture. I just added some foam tape behind my little window pane, and then that's going to go directly on my background panel. Just going to line them up. To give my window just a little bit more interest, I decided to add what was left over on my ink blending tool, and then I'm going to add a little bit of shading to the edges of my window. So there we go. Okay, clear everything out of the way. Now we're going to create a background using this stamp set. This stamp set is from La La Land Crafts, and it is called Wood Planks, and it actually comes with some succulent stamp images too, but I'm just going to use the background. I've used this before and I just love it. It's fantastic. I inked my background stamp up with my Distress Oxide ink again with Vintage Photo, and then I'm cut out a panel with white cardstock, and this is a 4-inch panel by 5 1/4, and I'm placing it on my background, and it stamps beautifully. Well, almost beautifully. I have a little bit of a white area, but I wasn't too worried about that because I think my window's going to cover that up. But I'm going to place my panel on a piece of, actually directly on my card base. My card base is a 4 1/4 by 5 1/2-inch top folding card base. And now we're going to grab all of our little elements and create our scene. I'm going to take my tape runner and add some tape behind my window and place that in the top left corner here. And then I'm going to go ahead and trim down a strip of white cardstock. I wanted to add my sentiment and I wanted to make it stand out. So I just cut out a 1-inch strip and I placed it along the length or the width of my card base. And then now we're going to add our flower box. I just added adhesive to the flaps that we scored and flipped over the back side, and then I tucked that smaller piece right underneath the window frame just for a little bit more length on my window. Now we get to add our little flowers. What I'm doing here is adding glue to the very top portion of them, and then I'm placing them on the inside of my flower box, and then I'm pressing down on the top of my flower box so my flowers stick to the inside. And they actually, when I did that with the foam tape on the window, it actually created a little bit of dimension. So that was a good thing. Now for my sentiment, I chose the sentiment that says, "Thank you for being you." I'm just inking it up with my VersaFine ink, and I'm going to stamp that towards the left. Okay, now with these two flowers, I'm going to add them on that white panel right below my sentiment, or right next to my sentiment, just using glue. Now I wanted to scoot it over just a bit so they would fit, and the very first flower was kind of overlapping on my sentiment, and I didn't want my sentiment to be hidden, so I'm just trimming it out and then adding a little bit of glue, and then I'll stick down my flower a little bit lower. Okay, now we're going to take a little Garden Marci, and I did pop her up with some foam tape. And then for a little bit of shimmer, a little bit of sparkle, I went in with some gold gems all over the flower centers. I did use my craft pick to pop up those little pieces in the flower box for a little added interest, and then added a little bit of interest with my white gel pen around my little Garden Marci. But there she is. Now this is the project I made for the step-by-step tutorial, and again, if you're a subscriber, you have access to the tutorial and lots more tutorials that are fantastic. I encourage you to check that out. But that's the project that I made for that. But this is the July 2018 product kit from Club La La Land Crafts. It is beautiful, girly girly. I just love it, and I hope you do too. Have a fantastic day, guys. We'll see you again soon.